Hey, brother Wes, what's up, man?
Whew, man, we're on our third interview of our rack and stack. We had great guests so far, and now we're about ready to have a third.
We are going to have a third, and I had a great conversation with our friend Paul Boyles, who's coming on in a minute, and he and I chatted on a couple weeks ago in preparation for doing this together. And I'll tell you what, everybody's gonna like Paul. He's a good dude, and he has a lot of good stuff going, and he's an executive coach, trainer, and just a good all around guy. And so we're looking forward to having some chat with him.
Man, I gotta tell you, do we get fantastic guests or what?
We do. It's amazing.
Yeah, I
It,
sometimes I have to do this, Randy. I've got to pinch myself because I
yeah.
can't believe the awesome people we get to meet.
It is. We talked about this the other day, and we've done 200 plus episodes now, right?
Yes.
And you would think that at some point we would run out of good guests, right? Just, I mean, but it's like, and I never worry about it, but the other, a month ago, we were booked out as far as we get sometimes. And sometimes that was my fault booking too far out because then we couldn't be current, right? I got too many too far out. So I'm trying to keep that a little closer. But all of a sudden, I started looking at possibilities and asking people and referrals and all that stuff. And now, so all of a sudden, we got enough people on the books now to get us into November. So, it's the point is there's just a lot of good people out there. And
Well, that means that we're giving our Thanksgiving now because we have all these awesome guests and
we are.
they're awesome people that they know, and it just keeps going. And like I said, we're doing what we love, and that's awesome.
That is. It's good stuff. So let's go do what Paul loves, which is he's a speaker, amongst other things. So let's go speak with Paul. What do you think?
That sounds like a plan.
All right, buddy.
All right, brother.
Hey, Paul, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Randy, very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Good,
Yourself?
good. I'm doing good. I just put my smart looker glasses on for just a second because
You look smart without them.
oh wow. Okay, well you need better glasses then, obviously.
I
Oh,
know.
how's things in beautiful Knoxville?
Wonderful. Yeah,
Awesome.
good fall day, a little crisp out there.
Is it crisp? Is it?
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. For September, right? Here we
Yeah.
are.
It's
It's good.
it's not crisp here in Southern Florida. Um,
Yes.
usually be back to Michigan at this time of year, but a couple of little issues that we needed to stay a little longer. So
Uh,
I'm still here. It's my first summer in this part of the of Southwest Florida that this late into the year, or you know this far into the summer, if you will, even though it's
yeah,
almost fall. So
yeah,
a little,
yeah.
little warm, but that's okay. I mean, 105, 108 doesn't. That's not bad. Feel like it's just steamy.
It's all
But
relative, I guess.
it all relative. You sit outside and you go, it's cooled down a little bit, and you realize it's 89, and so, oh, no wonder. It feels good. So, but well, good. Well, thank you for coming on. You and I had a great conversation a couple weeks ago or whatever it was, and I really love what you do. And I know you're a John Maxwell certified coach, maybe John Gordon too, I believe, both.
Yes.
And coach, trainer, speaker, disc consultant, and trainer. I mean, just all around, good stuff. So what I would love today is maybe to start is just tell us who you are. I mean, I gave you the highlights, but who is Paul? And then let's just talk about business and coaching and why it's important and why it makes sense and wherever we go for the next 30 minutes. What do you think?
Yeah, I love it. I appreciate that,
Of
and thank
course.
you for having me on today. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I've long career in human resources, 38 years in HR. Did a little bit of everything. I worked in the service industry. I worked in the hotel casino business. I worked for state government, and I worked for manufacturing. So 38 years really wrapped up about 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, I decided I was going to launch my own business. I had used a coach for myself and for other folks, and he had always encouraged me. He said, I think you're a natural. I think you could do this and you'd be good at it. And he said, if you ever get tired of this, Monday through Friday stuff, he said, let me know. He said, we'd love to help you and all that. And 3 years ago, I decided I was going to take the plunge and make the move. So I launched my business and I do speaking, coaching, training. Most of it is training and coaching. That's where it is. I coach individuals one-to-one or group coaching. They want to advance their career. They're trying to step up the ladder in the next level of their career. They might come to me. Or maybe they're struggling. Maybe their team is having some problems and they're not sure what's going on and they want to sort things out a little bit. And, we work through some sessions with them. And then the other part of the business is employee training. I do a lot of group training sessions, small to medium-sized businesses in most cases. Sometimes it's a one-shot deal. Sometimes it's, hey, I want you here every month for the next 10 months. Come in and talk to our folks and let's talk about difficult conversations or how to delegate better or whatever it might be, right? Employee discipline issues, some supervisor do's and don'ts, the basics, right? Whatever it might be. So that's what I do. I live here in Knoxville, right outside of Knoxville, technically. Been married for 30 years. My wife, incredible woman. She works about 3 days a week as a mental health counselor, therapist. And my daughter and son-in-law and a granddaughter here now in Tennessee. They just moved back here from Pennsylvania about a month ago. So we're
nice.
excited. Yeah, super excited. It's really nice.
Nice. Yeah, I really enjoy Knoxville. Not that I've spent a lot of time there, but I found it to be one. It's a college town. I spent 16 years in Ann Arbor, so I'm used to living in college towns, right?
Yeah.
And I love all college towns. I'll even say these because if I don't, my buddy and pal and producer director, occasional bodyguard, food stealing Wes Wido, he'll do something bad to me if I don't acknowledge Ohio State. But yeah, they knew that was coming. Go by. But anyway, I even like Columbus because it's a college town, right? It's a bigger city college town than some, right? I mean, I don't know. I can't remember how big Knoxville. Ann Arbor's not that big, a couple 100,000 people, right? Plus the students. But I love the vibe of a college town and everything.
It's
about
nice. It is. And I am lucky. I actually get to do some work with University of Tennessee in their non-credit lifelong learning program. I teach 5 or 6 one-day classes, basically. Folks from the public can sign up and take a class or a program. So I'm really blessed. I mean, it's a great experience. I love being in downtown area to go in and teach something at their conference center. Mm-hmm. So it's been a great experience. I like a college town too myself.
I do. I'm going to be there again in April. The National Frame Builders Association, our annual conference and board meeting or conference and expo is at the expo conference center there in town.
I saw that. Yeah.
Wherever that's at. I don't know where that's at compared to downtown, but I assume it's close. But
yes,
I'll have to try to get over and I'd love to get in. If you got any connections, little wink, I'd love to get in and walk around. I'd love to walk on the field. Is it Nyland Stadium?
Right?
So if you can pull in, if you can pull any favors, that would be.
I'll see what I can do, Randy.
Pretty amazing.
I'll see what I can do for you.
I still remember, way off subject as I figured we'd get, but I still remember the first time a million years ago that I walked out on to the Big M at Michigan Stadium.
Wow.
And it's just nobody was there. I mean, it was
but just the feel.
But and usually you can't do that, and probably couldn't today. But my younger son was a big fan, and we just stopped by there to show him the stadium. And somebody, a security person, I can't remember who it was. They let us do it. They said, you're probably not going to just destroy anything, and just to stand there and think of the history, right?
Yeah,
that's happened. It's kind of mind-boggling.
It is. It was an experience for him, though, right?
Oh yeah. It was. Yeah, I was more worried about me than him. I didn't care. No, I'm just kidding. No, he enjoyed it. It was a good time. That's been.
I bet.
35 years or better ago. Whew.
It's funny, and you still remember and talk about it today because it was such an experience.
It was.
Right?
It was to walk out there, walk out the tunnel. The players walk out or run out, and to stand right on the block M in the middle. I mean, it's like,
wow.
And you realize all the greats, not only from Michigan, but all the other teams that's been there over the years, right? And they played on this exact field.
Mm-hmm. And where some of those players ended up going, right, later on in their careers. It's phenomenal.
It is. So, but yeah, when I get into Knoxville, we'll have to, if you're in town, we'll have to tip a Dr. Pepper or something.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. I love it.
I've been known to have a Dr. Pepper now and then, but anyway, so tell me about the world of coaching and speaking. The speaking part I get. Coaching is always interesting to me because I think so many people don't recognize that they need that.
Yeah.
Probably, I'm not saying until it's too late, but would have certainly been beneficial to have done it way earlier, right? And
Right.
so one of the first things I really was interested in is from an individual standpoint, how do you just how do you know? Are there identifiers where you go, you know what, I'm doing pretty good? I guess if you're really, lack of a better term, if you just suck and you know you suck, you probably know you need some help, right?
Right.
But
Right.
if you just go, you know what, I'm pretty good at what I do, and I think I'm pretty good, but I don't think I need a coach. What's a coach going to do for me? How does walk us through how you identify and say, you know what, I don't care how good I am or how good I think I am. I need that third party, right? Other person, that somebody to counsel and teach and train and hold me accountable. What comes into that play from a mindset standpoint?
Yeah. Clients come to me primarily, I think, in two ways, right? One is a company um, wants to help this person grow, advance them in their career, move them to the next level, or that person is struggling and they say to the company, hey, you need some help. We're going to give you a coach. Or it could be an individual. It could be a realtor, an insurance agent, anybody, right? Who's saying, I'm not sure I'm doing what I should be doing, or I think I could be doing something better and different to move faster in my career and advance. The first session is always kind of a let's just get to know each other kind of a thing. Let's talk and figure out where you're at. Why are you here? Do you think this is going to be beneficial? How's it going to be beneficial to you, etc. And then from there, we can figure out where to go, where to take that person. They have the answers, right? I just kind of mine it out of them, if that makes sense. I'm not telling them what to do or how to do it. I'm trying to help them explore some options and paths and things that they haven't maybe thought about in the past, right? It's not really occurred to them that, and if I can share some of my wisdom, right? At 38 years in HR, I have dealt with a lot of things over time,
Mm-hmm.
help them not make the mistakes that I made, and they could avoid some of those landmines, basically. That's part of it. That's the goal. A lot of folks will say to me, I'm not sure how a coach is going to help me, or I don't know that you can help me, or whatever it might be. And 3 months later or 6 months later, they look back and say, wow, I can't believe those words came out of my mouth. Here we are. And look, I got a promotion, or I'm on track for something else, or whatever it might be, or I'm more content than I ever was in my life. Things are going great with my team at work, whatever it might be. It's amazing how that transformation happens with folks. And usually it's week to week, 1 week, another week session, and we go from there. It's usually more long term, 3 months, 6 months, even longer, right? Depends on the person, depends on what they're trying to achieve. But it's just so rewarding that I see that light bulb go off in their head sometimes when I'm talking to them, and I think, okay, we're getting somewhere. We're actually making some progress. We're accomplishing what they set out to do. So I love what I do. I love what I do.
I could tell. When we chatted a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks, whatever it's been, that I could tell that the passion for what you do was contagious.
Thank you.
So I think you touched on it, but when somebody's looking to hire a coach individually, for whatever the reason, they know they've got troubles, they don't know what they need help, or they just want to go to the next level, and they feel like the help of a coach will get them there. How are they looking typically? You mentioned 3 months, 4 months. Was most of it mission specific? Like, I'm going to work with Paul until I get from point A to point D, or is it like I'm going to do this for long term, or is it a combination depending?
It can be a combination of things. I've had clients for a year, right? I had a client started out with, it was going to be 3 folks on a leadership team. It ended up being 5 instead of 3. We met individually almost every single week for a full 12 plus months at one point, right? So they saw the value in it. The company did, and the individuals said, hey, this really is working for me. I'm making some progress. I'm performing differently than I did at work 6 months ago or a year ago, whatever it might be. And then other folks, they have this, hey, I want to be promoted to this level. Help me get there. They get to that level and they think, okay, we're done. one of the things I'm seeing lately in the last year of the business, I guess I might say, is companies now stepping forward and saying, I want to provide coaches to some of my younger folks, professionals coming in, where years ago that wasn't the case as much. It was more, we want to grow them and advance them, but I don't have the resources to give them. Now they're saying, hey, coaching is a good, because they're asking for it in part, right?
Mhm.
These millennials and even Gen Z folks, they're saying, hey, I think a coach could really help me. And so that's part of it. Business is responding to that need, that request.
Well, it makes sense. You hit on, you said the word cost a minute ago, and that's got to be one of those things that companies have to get past, or management ownership have to get past. Is I'm sure they look at, well, what's it going to cost me to have Paul work with my team?
Right.
But what they're missing, right, is, but what's the cost if I don't have Paul work with my team? The missed opportunities cost, right? And
Absolutely.
which is probably, yeah, that can be however many X's more, right? A lot of X's more, probably,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Right. No, and it really is, it's a cost, yes, right. But it truly is an investment in your people, right?
Yes.
It's one more way to invest in them, whether it's send them to a conference or seminar or whatever it might be. This is one more tool in your toolkit as an employer that you can provide. And it's one that when folks receive it and get the benefit of it, they really appreciate it, right? So it's a payback to the company or the organization, even not for profits, right? They're doing it as well. I mean, I'm seeing it. I have clients in that realm. They're seeing the benefit of it, saying this makes sense for us as an employer, because if we don't give it to them, they will go somewhere else where they will get it, right? Sooner or later, it's going to be one of those tickets that says, you know what? I think I could do better over here, and they're going to provide me with a coach or what. They'll walk. They really will in today's marketplace, today's workplace. So,
Right. Well, and you hit the word appreciate. I just had made a note here to myself. I've got to believe that that's one of those benefits that an employer can make with his people, their people, her people, whoever,
absolutely.
that makes the people feel like they're valued, that they're long term, that they've got a future here. If my employer is willing to invest thousands of dollars to help me become better, and I think everybody deep down wants to be better. I don't think
Right.
there's let's face it, if we're talking brutally honest between us buddies here, there are just some folks out there that don't care particularly. It just is. But I think that's probably less than it is more, that people do want to do a good job. They do want to be better. They do want to make themselves better. But if they're not getting any help, it's probably one of the greatest ways to get frustrated is, I want to do a good job here. I want to grow. I want to be better, but nobody's helping me.
Right.
They're just getting mad at me because I'm not doing stuff or I'm not living up to expectations. And then I wanted to tailor this into a term that I wrote down here. If you try to train within your own personnel, I think there's a certain part of that that makes sense, right? But isn't there a lot of groupthink that comes into play? Whatever's going on in this organization, everybody's somewhat thinking the same way. They're coming from the same culture, and I think at times to me, one of the big values to get somebody big values is to get somebody that from outside of maybe your little niche of 20 people, 50 people, 100 people, whatever it is, 5 people, doesn't matter, that brings a whole new perspective than just the same old thing that we all think and do, right?
Absolutely. No, you've nailed it. And it's funny you say that, because I met with a client this morning, and I'm going to facilitate. They have a senior leadership retreat coming up in November. And I'm going to facilitate a half a day with them pretty much. And they said, this is the first time we've ever brought in an outsider. And we think there's real merit to it, because when they hear it from us internally, they don't listen as intently sometimes. But if they're hearing it from somebody from the outside that they know we're bringing in just for them, et cetera, we think that investment is going to be well worth our while. So you've said it, you nailed it. I mean, it's so true. And that group think, that mindset comes in, and it can be damaging to an organization, right? So when you have somebody in there that can facilitate and say, hey, let's put it on the table, let's talk about X, Y, and Z, it helps tremendously. It really does.
Well, and I think too, thinking about that as we're talking, if you're in a middle management role, for example, and you're responsible for these people, and you need to bring them up to another level, uh, there's there's a certain amount of pressure on you that if you don't succeed with that, then you're looked down upon from your elders in the company, right?
Yeah.
Where if you bring in a coach, A, they're going to probably listen to you better because
Mhm.
you are now this outside expert as opposed to that's just Bill. And yeah, I've listened to Bill for 3 years. I don't want to hear what Bill's got to say. There's a lot of that, but there's also, it allows back to opportunities, right? It allows that management person to go do the things they ought to be doing
Right.
that are that's better use of their time, and turn that over to people that are better accustomed to. But let's face it, just because you happen to be a great manager at overseeing these widgets get
Right.
out to market
Right.
doesn't mean you're good at coaching, doesn't mean you're good at training. I
Right.
mean, you may not be good at that at all, and that's okay. You just need trained people to be better at what they do. And so I think you nailed it when you talked about that earlier. Is there is something to be said with talking to somebody that's that doesn't have that close vested interest in the company. That their vested interest is I'm here to train and teach, and I'm going to get my kudos, I'm going to get my paycheck from helping you guys be better, right?
Definitely. And there's two things that when you talk about that, I think one is leadership has changed dramatically in the last 5 years, let's say pandemic since.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different world than it ever has been. The whole workplace is really changed. Priorities are different in a lot of ways, et cetera. Um, and the other, I think, component of that or piece of that is, and you kind of alluded to it, is frequently an organization will take their best front desk clerk or production worker and say, okay, now you're a supervisor, now you're a leader. And yet they've never led people in their lives, or
Right.
they've been led by somebody who wasn't so good, and they're thinking, well, I better not do that. But they've got no real training to
Mm-hmm.
become that leader, to be that leader. So I think when they bring in someone from the outside, or there's additional training support from the outside, it goes a long way. It really does. And I love to do it. I just enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's nice to see.
Well, and like you said, that comfort level to work with a coach from a management standpoint, it's got to be huge because, like you just hit it again. I'm expected as this management person to teach and train these people that I don't even know what I'm doing, maybe, right?
Sometimes,
And
yes, right,
yeah, and that's okay because they've probably never been trained themselves, but you got to break that cycle at some point, right?
right, right.
And I think once people get used to understanding that there's always something to learn, there's always something to learn from other people, and I love the approach that we're just talking about of getting away from that group think a little bit. That's one of the biggest benefits personally in my world is all the people I've got to meet via the podcast or guesting on people's podcasts or just other things that I do is
Mhm.
meeting people that have nothing to do with my industry.
And that's
But
phenomenal. That
yeah,
is
right.
powerful.
It is because we was talking that with a guest earlier today, and you really do fall into, regardless if you're an out of the box thinker or not, every industry has their ways, let's call them that, right?
Sure.
And I don't care how out of the box thinking you think you may be or may be, it's by osmosis, if nothing else. If that's what you're around every day, that's you're going to go back to that a little bit. And I think there's I love, I just I'm a serial networker, right? And we talked about that, I think, and
Yep, we did.
I just love what I learn and what you can learn from each other just talking to people out of the industry because people still people, business still business, sales is still sales. But what works making this widget and what you are doing making this widget, while they may seem completely opposite, probably 80% of that's all the same stuff. right?
Yeah.
We're all going to do the same thing. We just call it a widget instead of a wadget, right? I mean, but we're still right. We're still doing the same
Yeah,
stuff every day, right?
absolutely.
And so I love that concept.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll give you a quick story. I prospect of a client, healthcare related facility, and I've never worked in healthcare in my life, but they were having turnover issues with employees, engagement, retention, the whole bit. And I said, well, I have a workshop I can do on that for your leadership team, and the CEO kind of looked at me and said, well, I don't know, you've never worked in healthcare, right? I said, no, I haven't. I said, but people are people and the issues are the same issues, maybe a little different flavor a little bit, but the heart of them are still the same thing. And so he said, well, I said, if you're not satisfied, I'll give you your money back. I won't even invoice you. We'll do it for free. And so he came up to me afterward. We did the session. We did a training session with kind of the senior leadership team. And he said, I hate to, he said, I was wrong. He said, it's the same stuff. I said, yeah, it really is. It's the same problems that they're having in retail, that they're having in the hotel business, that they're having in manufacturing. It's the same thing. It's just a little different level for you. You're talking nurses and doctors, and I get it, but it's the same. It really
Right.
is. So yeah.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. Well, and you bring with the years of experience you have, that's the other thing that, let's face it, you bring some gravitas to it, some credibility to it. Yeah, you can't have 38 or 40 or 45 years into doing stuff and not to learn something. I mean, I feel like I know a fair amount about what I'm doing. It's not because I'm particularly smart. It's just that I've been doing it for so long that I'd have to be on the lower end of the moronic scale to not have picked up something, right? I mean, at some point you've only seen it 7,000 times. If it doesn't stick by now, you're in trouble, right?
You're in real trouble.
Yeah, but no, I think that's good stuff. So uh, we talked about personal coaching and we talked about the group coaching. Uh, do you find that people when they get together into groups um, get hesitant to be open and to talk and to ask questions and to be really coachable because there's always that, well, if I say something dumb or I don't want to bring that up? How do you get people in a group setting to be okay with opening up and saying, you know what, Paul, I don't know what to do with that. I just really don't. I should. I've been here 12 years, but I
Yeah.
mean, I really don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, no, and a lot of times I can sense to what degree that's going to occur before I've stepped into the room. Because before I'll take an engagement with a client, I'll meet with that client, and even when I meet with them, I'm assessing the culture of the organization as I walk through. If they're giving me a tour, I can pick up and sense how they are with employees, with the frontline people, et cetera. They're not even saying hello. They're not introducing me. They're whatever it might be, or they are, and everybody's really friendly. And I know my work is going to be easier there than the former. And sessions like that. So when we do a group thing, maybe the first one or two, they're a little hesitant. They're reluctant. They're not quite sure how safe this is. But quickly, very quickly, they overcome that. They might come to me afterward. That first session, one of them might, hey, I want to talk to you about something. And we'll talk a little bit. And then another one. And then we'll say, okay, let's bring that to the group, because if you're thinking it and saying it, I guarantee you 4 other people are. I guarantee you it's happening, right? So let's put it on the table. Let's talk about that. You just have to make them feel safe. And that takes a little bit of trust, a little bit of time, but it is worth it, because then the things that come out of that are far more beneficial than stuffing it under the rug again. That's not the solution.
Right. So do you when you do group sessions, uh, is it typical to have that group's supervisor or manager or whatever position in the room, or do you typically do this group separately so there's a feeling of I can be a little bit candid here and not have to play in front of my boss, so to speak?
Yeah, if it's a coaching type thing, generally that senior leader is not there, right? Because one, they recognize that that's going to be a hindrance. They'll frequently say, "Should I be there? Shouldn't I be there? I don't think I should, because I'm afraid they won't speak up." yeah, you've probably nailed it, right?
Right.
If I'm doing a training session with employees, right, an open training,
Mhm.
the supervisor, it's healthy to have them there, because if we're going to talk about some issues that are occurring, procedural issues that, hey, we don't deliver the service we should because this policy gets in the way and causes us headaches, that supervisor needs to, oh, here's why we have that policy, or let's look at that policy and let's blow it up, or let's change it, let's modify it so we can make some real progress and solutions as we're talking, basically, if it's a training session. So two different formats, basically, and two different answers there, I guess you might say.
No, that makes sense. Um, so would you say a large percentage of your work in-house with employers and employees is more from a high level 30,000 foot view of how to be a better salesperson, how to be a better manager, how to be a better in more generic terms, or do you spend more time, I guess, digging into their company, their policies, and really streamlining it directly to company XYZ as opposed to generalities, or do you do a combination of both?
It's a little bit of both, in all honesty. I mean, I have clients that I'm in their facility every month for 10, 12 months in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Do a training session on, difficult conversations. Let's talk about how we should have those in the workplace. Do a session on how to delegate better than they're currently delegating. It's not happening, and it should be happening. So it really does depend upon the company, the organization, association, whatever it might be. But it just always just comes around to, the more time I spend with them, the more in the weeds we can get, right? I mean, the more detail we can get, the more focus we can get. A lot of times it will be, okay, we've uncovered this situation. Let's put a group to it and figure out next month, how can you solve this? So let's talk about the solution to what you've kind of uncovered today. When I come back in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, let's talk about what you've come up with as a solution as a group then, and figure out where we go from there.
Got it. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was just looking at your profile and thinking about as before we run out of time, explain what a DISC consultant is for anybody that may not know
This
what
is
that is.
yeah, sure. It's a behavioral assessment, and we all fall into one of these categories, and then there's shades of others that we have, right? So a high D would be, a very dominant person, for example, that kind of thing. So, and it helps to understand when I'm maybe hiring someone, or when there's trouble on the team, or I want to bring in a new team member. I don't want a team of, for example, all high Ds in most cases, right? I want to have a compilation of variations so that they all complement one another a little bit. But even to interact with each other, if I know what kind of person I'm dealing with as far as their behavioral assessment, that communication style, etc., I know that when that D's coming on strong, it's not a personal attack against me. It's just his or her delivery style, communication style, whatever it might be. It just helps. It's a good tool to have in your pocket, basically.
So you'll so in that part of your work, you'll do the testing, if you will, and then you'll use that and consult with the company on, like what you just said. How can you work with each other? Okay, you're a D and you're a C,
Right.
and you'll actually consult with them and actually help them understand just what you just said. This is how you can't, if you're a D, you can't go dominating everybody.
Right.
That's your nature, but you got to understand that's what you are. But at the same token, the other side of the spectrum, you got to understand, well, that Paul's a D, so he's going to come on strong, but that does, like you just said, back off like 5% to understand he's not a jerk. He's just, that's just his personality.
No,
And I think a lot of that consulting with those folks probably help, because if they just walk away going, okay, I guess I'm an I, whatever that is. He said I'm an I. But if you don't do something with that, what does that gain you, other than you go home and tell your wife I'm an I? That's what Paul said, I'm an I. I took this test today and I'm an I.
well,
And that idiot that I hate over in HR, he's a D. That's why I don't like him. I got that part figured out, right?
you can do it, Randy. You got it. No, that's in a nutshell. It's just about understanding who we are and how we interact with other people. And if I can look in the mirror and say, yeah, that is me, and 99% of the time, I'll say, does this accurately reflect you? Oh yeah,
They
that's
get
me.
it.
That's me.
Yeah,
Right? Doesn't take much.
it doesn't. And I'm sure that the lights go on a lot with that, because I think you may not ever, until you do something like that, you never put a name to it or a definition to it. But once it's defined to you, I gotta believe you're going, yeah, that's me. I probably do that all the time. And
Yeah,
and you're right. If you know it, at least you're 50% more likely to, even if you start down that road, you know what? I need to this back off just a little bit here, or approach this a little differently. And I think that comes into play. Maybe the last subject, because you've been very kind with your time,
yeah.
but
Thank you.
it's in today's world, especially, you got people working longer, and you got young folks coming in. Uh, it's not uncommon to have, especially in small or medium-sized businesses, and maybe family-owned businesses even more so, that third and fourth and fifth generation, right?
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
so you got the 20-year-old that's just starting that, because they're 20 and aggressive. We all were 20. We all thought we knew everything, right? And then you got the grandpa that's 79, 82, but he's still around. And then you
Mhm.
got everybody in between. Everybody comes from different backgrounds, different, and it made me think of that
Absolutely.
just yesterday. You consider there's a lot of people in the workforce right now that looked at 9/11 yesterday
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
we did this recording,
Yeah.
and it was nothing more than, yeah, that kind of sucked. That was awful. I mean, I saw some stuff on TV when I was 9, but
Right.
they weren't aware like you and I,
No,
and
absolutely.
lived through that. So the effects something like that has on somebody, you and I, is much greater than that 20-year-old. That's just one example of life in general. And so isn't it pretty important from your standpoint to get everybody in that organization to understand that, yeah, I get it, Grandpa, you're 87 or 82 years old and you've seen it all, done it all, you know it all, but you got to have 14, 20-year-olds working here, and you better learn how to talk to them, how to deal with them, because even more so today, right? I think today's 20 and 30-year-old, if they ain't happy, they're just walking.
Absolutely.
They're not
Absolutely.
they're not going to sell their soul to the company store, right? There's a song like that,
No.
right? But
No.
but they're not. They're not looking to, I'm going to hire in at 20 and retire at 65
No.
at this same company. I'm
No.
here until I don't want to be here.
Yeah. No.
And so if
Absolutely.
you want to keep them here, you better find a way to make that more amicable, right? So let's
Definitely.
finish on your thoughts on that one, because that's always
No,
interesting to me.
I appreciate that, and you said it right. They are not going to stay where they don't want to be. They will move on to something else in a flash. I mean, they
Hmm.
really will. There's no that loyalty that the boomers had.
Right.
It's different than it, and for a lot of reasons. I'm not saying they're wrong, right?
Right.
There's a lot of reasons that's occurred over years. My oldest brother, right, 1968 graduates college, gets a job with IBM. That was the job for life, right?
Hmm.
You never left IBM. They
Right.
never laid anybody off. I mean, it was today. That's a totally different ballgame, right? It just
Right.
is with
Right.
any employer and any employee.
Right.
So yeah, you're right. These Gen
Well,
Z folks or millennials, different mindset than we had. Even folks a little younger than me now, since the pandemic, they've had a mind shift. They've
hmm.
thought about it a little bit, like, okay, life is too short. Maybe I don't need to put up with a bad boss for the rest of the
Right.
working I have. So it's
Yeah.
changed, definitely
It ha-
changed.
it has, and it's easy for somebody, the boomers and that, to say, well, you just don't have any dedication. You just don't have enough stick-to-itiveness. But
Right.
like and you just hit on it, Paul. Maybe we had too much at times, because how many people in our age brackets
Right.
and older that maybe been out of the workforce for a while that did that. I don't say popular, but ever popular.
No.
I've got 12 years, 12 months, 12 days, 3 hours, 13 seconds, right, to until I can get out. Well, that's not a good way to live either, right?
No, not at
And
all.
and I think maybe the flip side is the 20-year-old is too quick to, well, I don't like the way Bill looked at me, so I'm out of here.
Right.
But the flip side is, if I don't, it's not even the money always, right? It's like,
No.
I just don't like to go to work every day.
Absolutely.
And if
Absolutely.
I don't like going to work every day, I'm not going to go to work every day. I'll find something else, right?
No,
And so
absolutely.
I think it's that's got to be an area that's pretty important. I think is learning to deal with all those different generations,
Yeah.
and we got to try. I think as employers or management people, maybe to as much as you can give each of them as much as you can
Yeah.
to make the workplace a fun and enjoyable place to be, because I don't think anybody uh, performs well if they hate life every day, right?
Right. No, definitely
And,
not.
and so if we can build an environment where, I don't think I made this up, but if nobody else claims it, I'll take it. But you can't let 20 minutes of suck become 20 days or 20 weeks or 20 years, right?
20 years.
It,
Absolutely.
it is what it is. You fix it. And, and Wes and I talk about this a lot. If you don't, and one of the things I love to say, and I'll end the show in just a couple minutes, part of
Yeah.
it is love what you do and do what you love, right? Not every day, every second of every day, right? There's going to be that 20 minutes of suck, right? I've had it a couple times today. I've had two 40-minute segments of it today, but that has not changed one iota. Okay, maybe I threw a coffee cup against the wall, not, figuratively, not literally,
Yes.
right?
No, I know exactly. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, I just still love what I do though, and so there's two answers to that, right? Get coaching to help you if you need it, which you probably do. But there's two answers to that. Figure out the parts you don't like and see if you can fix them.
Right.
Or maybe you got to just find a time to move on and
Yeah.
find what that is, right? Because
That's
if you got, now again, if you got 9 months to go to this massive golden parachute retirement, yeah, I'd probably
right.
stick it out. And
Right.
I've lived with it for 42 years. I can live with it for another 9 months, right? But if
Yeah.
you're 24 years old, you're just not going to do that.
No, they're not. They're
Nor
not.
should they. To be real brutally honest, if we wouldn't want our, in my case, grandkids
No.
at 20 years old, if they're
To be
telling me every day, Papa, I hate this. I'm just miserable. I've tried then I would, if you
hey,
tried everything,
find
yes,
something else.
then I would find something that you can do
Right.
that you enjoy every day, or at least the most part. So, and a lot of that back to finding a good coach, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, I love it. I think you could have my job, Randy. You could do
you know what? If I take on too many more things, my Dixie chick, the Dixie chick will kill me. She goes, you're doing what now?
it.
Yep, the Dixie chick. Yeah, yeah. Well, Paul, and as my buddy pal, producer, director, yeah, should ask questions. He's also, I have to throw this out. He got ahead of me, but
Okay.
sometimes food stealer. Because if we ever get together, you and I with Wes, I'm telling you right now, if there's a quesadilla left on the plate, he will take the last one.
I don't. He'll have to be fast. Let me tell you.
There we
There he
are,
is.
Cincinnati together, man. Good stuff.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, Paul should ask question. What is there we didn't touch today, or do you just wish when you're out and about that talking about what you do, that you just go, I just wish people would ask me this, and they never do?
No, I think you have really captured all of it so well, and I would encourage people, if they have questions, just reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. I've got a website. My cell number is out there. Just call me, right? And people are reluctant sometimes. It's like, I don't know how they're going to help, or I don't know what I would do. I don't even know how to pick a coach. Call. Just pick up the phone. If you're thinking it, take the next step. I mean, it only makes perfect sense.
Exactly. Love it. Well, I can tell you, I think anybody that does that will not be dissatisfied. And when I get to Knoxville, don't forget,
Yeah.
is it
Dr.
nylon? Nylon? Is it nylon?
Depends who you talk to. Depends who you talk to.
Okay.
Yeah, it really does. Nayland Stadium, but it's got
Nayland. Okay.
it's got some
Nayland.
variations, right?
All right.
Really does.
The stadium. I want to stand in the big T in the center.
I'll see what I can do
All
and
right,
get
work
you
on that.
Dr. Pepper as well.
Dr. Pepper. I'll get the Dr. Pepper if you get me on the field.
I'll try.
All right, perfect. All right, my brand, or my brand. Well, you are my brand, my man.
Yes.
Thank you for thanks for being on today. I appreciate it. It was a great conversation. As I've said before, and I'll say it again. I'm gonna say it right now. One of the beautiful things that Wes and I've talked about often about doing this podcast is we've just always have such incredible guests, and you've been right at the top of the list, my friend.
Thank you.
And I always walk away learning several things.
That's good.
And I did today, and it's been very good. So thank you for that. And I'm sure
Thank you.
that when we drop this in a couple 3 weeks, whenever that is, I'm sure that anybody that watches or listens will gain something out of this. And call Paul.
Thank you, Randy. I really appreciate that. Appreciate your time and you having me on here.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you, buddy. Talk soon. Cheers.
Take care now.
All right, buddy.
Bye.
All right. Remember, call Paul. Good stuff. Coaching is important, and getting out of that group think. That is one of the things, and I've talked about that before with people. I think getting out of that group think uh, box is important, right? Because if we don't get out of our own industry, um, we will fall by osmosis into that same kind of thinking. And some of that thinking is good, and some mastermind groups and some conversations in our own group is important, super important. But man, let's get out of that box. Let's get out with networking with people that are completely, totally in opposite directions, and learn and share, and it'll just make life better. Will make us better at everything we do. So as I said, I already said it, but I'll say it again. I'm loving what I do and doing what I love. That's what we're doing today. Live it, love it, own it every single day, and go make today your best day ever. Until tomorrow. Cheers.